Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get started in just a minute. I love seeing all the familiar names and some new ones as well joining us today. We're going to look at planning our 2021 development, and we're going to look at it from the view of enablement leaders and sales leaders and poor folks flying solo who don't have the enablement and training teams, and those who do, and what should we budget, and just all kinds of good stuff. We're going to cover about a million things. I'm going to go quickly. I'm going to record and make sure that it's made available to everyone afterwards. Feel free to open up your chat so you can let me know if you've got questions. I'll make sure I stay on afterwards if anybody wants to ask one-on-one questions, and do my best to get it all covered during the session. This is the first time I presented on this material, so lots of new slides. I have no idea how long it's all going to take, so I am going to go rather rapidly. If you're just joining us, welcome. I'm LB, founder of Factor 8, the Sales Bar and Girls Club, and we're talking now to sales leaders and enablement and training leaders about how to maximize our development in 2021. We're going to cover what to budget, how to maximize the budget, smart spends and money wasters, what to do if you're flying solo, low cost, no cost, all kinds of stats that you can use to go and budget for or fight for that budget as you're planning for 2021. So we're a minute past the hour. Let's go ahead and get started. Hello. My name is Lauren Bailey. You can call me LB. My friends do, and they call me other things too. We won't get to that. Today, we're going to talk about planning our 2021 development. We're going to look at it from the point of view of enablement leaders, training leaders, sales managers flying solo. I'm going to pack everything I can in here to help. For perspective, I've spent about a third of my career desperately needing training for me and my sales teams. Another third of my career buying training as a corporate training leader for large companies, and another third of my career selling training as a vendor with Factor 8. So be prepared to see all sides of the equation. Let's jump right in. First, we're going to talk about the why. Why do we budget for development? Well, my sales leaders will know it's the top three, right? To attract the talent, ramp the talent quickly, and retain the talent. So a couple stats that you can use as you're selling this internally or convincing the powers that be that we need this budget. Number one on the list, Forbes reported from millennials, the opportunity to develop and advance the career. This ranked above pay. So development opportunities and career growth opportunities both ranked above what the salary is. So you need this development to attract that talent. They're probably asking about it in interviews already. Ramp. Okay, this is a confusing looking arrow. Recent research from the Bridge Group tells us that the average lifespan of an SDR BDR, which is where many of us are starting our new reps, is shrinking every single year. So we've got about 15 months here available to us. I've got red in the first month because we're onboarding and training and hiring, and right is probably the middle of the month. Now, orange is our typical or best practice ramp time. We get into the yellow all the way up to month 4. That's the average. So it takes on average about 4 months to get that new sales rep hitting quota and paying for themselves. So we've just lost 5 of those months. Now we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 months of actual quota hitting production from our new sales reps. And then boom, we're losing them. So the stars that you see are what we can get back with development. Our yellow stars are where we are ramping them faster. Boom, we just went from 9 to 11 and, 10 and 11 months of productivity. Our 2 stars at the end are how we're keeping them longer with that development. So 4 months plus the 9 months, you can see that makes a great big difference. All right, retention. Interesting stats here. A joint study with Ambition showed 98% of reps are likely to stay with a company indefinitely if they're getting that ongoing development opportunity. And I love this one here from IBM, right? If the company is not developing them, employees who feel like they can't develop in their company and fulfill their goals are 12 times more likely to leave. So that's a little bit scary of a statistic. So both sides of that one for us. And in the end, it comes down to this, right? It used to be that we could buy the talent. I was hiring sales teams back when we could too, right? The typical thing we're looking for: college degree, 2 years of sales experience, played a competitive sport. That's out the window, folks. By the time they've got 2 years of sales experience, they're done. We're losing them that fast. So we're going to have to build the talent. We can't just buy it. And I know so many of you are feeling that pain out there. So let's get right to the heart of the matter. What do we budget? I've got some great benchmarks. Here we go. Here's the two you want: either 1 to 3% of your total budget, or more specifically, 2 to 5% of your salary should be budgeted for employee development. These are the benchmarks in the industry. So let's translate that. If you've got a team of 25, average on-target earnings at 90K, that's giving you a $2.25 million salary budget. 2% is 45K or 1,800, 3.5% right in the middle, 78,750 or 3,150 per FTE. If you're going to go top into that 5%, you're looking at 4,500 per head count. Or, right, the cheat is $50 per $1,000, and that gets you at the high end. That's how you do quick math to decide what to budget. Write these into your line items. We'll talk more about that in a minute. I want to give you a few more benchmarks and sources on this. I'm getting these from CSO Insights, from ATD, that's the Association of Training and Development, Training Magazine, huge hitter in the training space, and the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. So they are validating 1,200 to 5,000 is the per FTE average spend from organizations. This is not just sales, this is across all organizations. ATD and Training Magazine report that. How much training? Wow, about 4 hours a month is what we're looking for. So the average is 45.5 hours a year. That means if you haven't trained since onboarding, you're in trouble. What do you pay for external training? It's a huge range. The average contract for small to mid-sized companies was $71,000. If you're paying for event training, it's $5 to $15K per day. The other way they break this down is usually about $100 per employee per hour. And I like this one from AISP. Only 50% of their community are where the reps are saying they think their company provides them with the training they need to be successful. So that's scary, right? That means 50% of your people may be actively looking. Sorry to tell you that. All right, look at this one. These are straight from IBM, and IBM's known as a leader in training and employee development. They've just done beautiful things for decades. 10 to 20% of an organization's original capabilities are lost every year. 41% of your staff will be lost within 3 years. These stats are here for the people who say, I don't want to pay for training because what happens if I lose them? Well, if you're not moving people forward, you may be paying a steeper price than you realize. You're losing the expertise, you're losing the people. Hey, even Starbucks that have baristas are paying top dollar for employee development and college tuition reimbursement because it keeps them there longer. All right, now let's look at some of the payoff. This is what you can use to build ROI numbers and validate those percentages in dollars. All right, first two different sources that validate the same thing, 2x. So the profit or income per employee from companies that are offering continuous training or better training. It's double. Isn't that interesting? So HR Magazine looked at profit per employee and they looked at the difference on the spend, right? One was spending 82K, the other was spending 169K, and the results were double. I thought that was interesting. ATD just looked at it as more versus less. 6% higher return for shareholders when the training budget per employee is increased by under $1,000. I know these sources are from all over the place, right? You just got to grab the stat you like and make a case. 24% higher average profits realized by companies investing just $1,500. That's the low end of the range. So fantastic. If you're not doing that already, use this stat to get that $1,500 per employee. I love this one and I've seen it work. I spent so much of my career in training chasing that whale of reducing ramp time for new employees, that arrow I built, right? If we can get them performing faster, not only do we get more months of at quota production, but we keep them longer. And I proved it time and time again. Training Magazine supports that, saying Onboarding time can be cut in half with a good training program. I wholeheartedly agree with that one. And then the last one, I love this. CSO Insights did a study on training our leaders. Not only are we keeping our leaders longer, but look at the production difference on their teams. Average improvement seen on managers' teams who are receiving management level development. And if 63% is the average, folks, it's like adding a whole nother team of headcount when we increase the production and productivity of those employees. All right, so that was a lot of numbers. I hope you grabbed a couple stats that you like. What do you do with them? Here's my advice. Actions and tips. If you have no budget and you specifically always consistently have no budget, you can get creative, right? Reroute spiff budgets. Right now, travel budgets, we've seen that work. Reward and recognition budgets. We've gotten really used to budgeting as sales leaders for each one of these items, and recruiting as well, but not development. And it's time to make it an annual line item in the budget. So my suggestion is get it in there, start now, don't ever stop. 5 years ago, we started adding tools line items, right? It used to be a case-by-case ROI justification. Now it's business as usual. 10 years ago, we had to add it for recruiting. Now it's time to do it for development because, folks, the hiring pool, I don't have to tell you. All right, budget more if you and your team have had a pivot this year. And who hasn't had a COVID pivot, right? A go-to-market pivot or a strategy change, they're going to need different behaviors and skills. Don't budget the minimum. You're going to need help with that. If you have changed, your industry has changed, there's new competitors on the landscape. If you have had a product or a product market fit change, budget more. If it's been over a year since you've done training, go on the high end. Or if you've got a great, big, hairy, audacious goal or a very fast ramp to get to that goal, not going to be business as usual. It's time for a massive behavior change, and that's going to take training. Other advice, I love this one I learned. Don't let it lapse, right? You know, the old use it or lose it budgets. That's the case here too. If you let it lapse over a year, one, you're at risk, right, of losing the employees who want that ongoing development. But two, super hard to justify using it for next year, right? You're in a bad position. You didn't do any training last year. Why do you need it again? If you've got 25-ish sales reps, it's time to start looking at hiring an internal resource. You will be shocked at how quickly they get crazy busy. I'll talk about lead times and stuff, etc., in just a minute. But if you're at the 25 mark, I would put a head count in your budget plan as well. Now, if you're needing to build an ROI case study, it's hard to say what you're going to get, right? We partner with each one of our clients to look at exactly what we're trying to move and build a legitimate ROI case study. But if you don't know at this stage, because you're planning for next year, go somewhere between a 5 to 15% improvement. That's a minimum that we see. What can be improved? All kinds of things. You could look at number of leads coming in. You could look at the conversion rate from lead to demo or demo to close. You could look at ramp time. You could look at employee retention. You could look at average order size. Any one of those, pick what is your target. And if you don't have a target, then get one before you hire in any training or give advice to and directives to an internal person. And estimate what would be the return on that investment, right? Take your high number, go against the ROI. Does it make sense? Are you getting the lift? Is it worth it? Now you know what to budget because your CFO is going to ask for it. All right, couple pieces of advice on how to spend that money. First and foremost, if you can, train your managers first. Now, I say if you can because we all know that when you have a rapid hiring goal, all attention goes to new hire. As soon as you get a head count, they're going to be steeped in new hire onboarding for years, right? Which means the managers, we get to them later. It usually goes employee onboarding, employee ongoing training, and then we get to the managers. And frankly, it's counterproductive for a few reasons. One, there is a pass-through effect when you're training your managers. Two, just like one rep touches, let's call it 100 customers, now multiply that times the manager who has 15 reps. The impact is massive. Here's a third reason. When you don't have a manager who's bought into development and training, very often you're wasting the rep training, right? A study was done by Training Magazine like a decade ago. I love citing this. It's painful.
but here it goes. Us training geeks, and I say that with love, my training people, we like to measure what makes the biggest difference. And when you're talking about difference in training, you're talking about skills being retained, skills being applied, and then seeing an actual lift in numbers. What makes the biggest difference? Is it how we train? Is it when we train, right? We have a million levers that we pull. It comes down to these top two: what the manager says before the rep goes to training, what the manager says when the rep comes out of training. Look at that impact. If they're not levers of ongoing development, they're not going to care about implementing with your reps, and you're going to wind up wasting the money. All right. Don't even look to start training until you've gathered baselines. 6 months is best practice. What are we trying to move here? If it's conversion rates, get the data. Now you can measure the impact of the training. If you're not sure what you're impacting, you're not ready to go forward with the training. Here's one that I've learned this year. It used to really frustrate me that people would hire us to do an event-based training, which is the way I always hired training vendors, right? And then, 6 months later, you're like, oh, did it stick? Is it still alive? Is it working? I don't know. Nobody's talking to us anymore. So we changed the way we did business at Factor8. Now we partner with our clients annually, which means one vendor, and you're working onboarding, ongoing development, management development, everything we need. It's like outsourcing a training partner. It's the right way to do business. It's the right way to provide training to your people. And I credit my new CRO, Ted Martin, for that. Like, I knew it was the right way to do business, but my business model was set up the other way. So it was kind of the duh factor for us. It's my advice to you. It makes a phenomenal difference. It makes it easier for our clients. We get the chance to make the biggest impact, build the relationships, and really move the numbers. When you're looking at what to spend on, you'll see this again. Spend the money on the customization and the follow-up. And I'll show you why in a bit, but we always try to trim and make it less expensive, less expensive, less expensive, right? But the customization and the follow-up are the small spends, the before and after the training, that make a great big difference. Blended learning. So listen, we've all gone virtual, right? And I love our e-learning platform. I'll show you a little bit about it as we go forward. But what we've learned with the clients who don't want to spend the money on the live training, our buy-in, our adoption, and our engagement is lower. The live training events do make a difference, right? Like you could see this in an email, but are you going to pay attention to it as much as if you were here live and we were talking about it and building the passion? And in a real training, we'd have a chance to actually interact and practice, et cetera. I'll show you that in the next slide. Accountability at every level is a big deal. What I mean by this is we don't want to force people to take training, but we do want to hold them accountable, not just to what they learn in a quiz, but what they're applying, which means the manager is holding the rep accountable to applying these on calls, which means the leader is holding the manager accountable to keeping these skills alive and coaching these calls, right? The VP is holding the directors accountable to maximizing that investment and measuring the results and keeping those skills alive. So if you've got a big training initiative, make sure there's roll-ups to each level. What are we looking for? What questions are you asking in your one-on-ones? It can be that simple, leaders. Use certifications, contests, and reward and recognition to show how important the skill development is. We're all looking for new ways to have contests, right? So if we're training on voicemails, then the contests that for the next couple of weeks are how many you got returned, right? It's how you show the importance of the investment. It's how you keep your employees from understanding that this isn't just the latest flavor of the month. Certifications, frankly, are the secret sauce. When we have folks who are doing an engagement with us and the exact same engagement on a different client plus certifications, the retention is through the roof. The application is through the roof. The results are through the roof. Reps love a badge, folks. Certification doesn't just mean they did it. It means they're doing it and they can prove it in the application, which for us means recorded calls. Know the difference between telling, training, and coaching. And I'm going to talk to you about that right now. I can't tell you how many frontline sales managers I talk to who don't have the enablement budget, right? And they are doing the onesie twosie onboarding of all of their reps. When I listen to them call coaching, it's nowhere close to call coaching. It's telling. And the reason for that is that they're having to individually and personally train every rep on every skill. So it's important to know the difference between these three functions. It seems simple, but most of us get this wrong. When you're doing something like this, what we are doing here together, this is one way. It's a webinar. Same as when you're watching a video, right? Lots of training providers are video based. It's good, but not great. This is presentation of new information. It's covering the what and the why. For instance, it could be a leadership meeting. As a sales leader, you're saying, we're going to focus on this, what and why. It's one way, it's short. This is where most training stops. This is why we all say, I've told them a million times, why aren't they doing it? Okay, because we didn't train them. The next level is the training. Training covers the how do you do it, and sometimes even more importantly for young reps, the when do you do it? We've given them tons of product information and sales training, but when you pull that out in a sales call, that's the key to shortening ramp time, okay? So training should be customized for the learning in use. It's practicing it, it's role plays, it's implementation, it's hearing or seeing good examples and bad examples, it's discussion. This is where adult learning techniques come in. Don't want to like training geek out on my sales leaders, but there you go. Training takes longer, but this is where the behavior starts to change. I can present the information in a webinar and go to a practice. 80% of the people are going to get it wrong the first 1, 2, 3, 4 times. That's why we practice. Now, the 1, 2, 3 punch, want to make it stick? The call coaching. This is where your managers are following up and giving dedicated feedback to the implementation of those skills. It's the who needs to do it and the where it needs to happen in the sales process. It's custom feedback, 1 to 1 to 3 to 1. More than 3 to 1, it's training, not coaching. It's also interactive. It's also question-based. It is short. It is frequent. And this is where the behavior change sticks. Okay. So don't let your organization stop at what if it's important. The keys here are 2. Number 1, teaching the managers to coach those skills. And number 2, budgeting the time for the training. It is an age-old dilemma. I need the behavior to change. I need the skills to improve. I can't take them off the floor to do so. Good training takes time. Don't just budget the money, budget the time. Here's why, folks. We're all fighting the forgetting curve. So many people have heard of this stat, right? 80% of what somebody learned is gone in 2 weeks. Why should I pay for training? How about instead, you pay extra for the good training? You keep the skills high in retention when you're reinforcing those. If I just hear it in the what, you bet it's gone. You guys aren't going to remember this. But if you use it and you practice it and you apply it and you take notes with it and you turn it into a report and a budget, you're retaining this information longer. That's why we do training follow-up. That's why we have the managers coach the skills. Otherwise, this red line is your waste of money on what you're investing in the training. So a couple final tips on smart spends and money wasters. Smart spends, the customization. My trick here is check the degree of customization. I remember I was buying training from a very, very reputable vendor, and the line item cost for customization for my 800 employees was like 25 grand. And when I actually went and looked at the materials, the customization meant at the end of every chapter, there was 1 page stuck in with a custom role play. Well, I could have written that for free. That's not customization. So check the level, dig into that. We just talked about this. The ongoing reinforcement versus the event is a smart spend. The more interactive, the better. The more focused on the managers doing it, the better, which is why number 3 is the managers keeping skills alive. Are we teaching them what's being trained? Are we teaching them how to follow up? Are we teaching them how to coach on it? On-demand tools, fantastic. People want to be able to go back and reference what was trained. Let's be honest, if you're getting a big workbook in an event, the workbook goes up in a closet. Nobody references that again. It is a gorgeous doorstop. It is there for the learning. It is there for the writing, for the kinesthetic and the visual people who need it during the learning. It ain't being referenced afterwards. So make sure they have something online that they can reference. Pardon me. And finally, the live interactive sessions. Like I said before, when we have clients who are doing just the e-learning versus the one who are layering the live training on top of it, the results are drastically different. It is worth the spend. What isn't worth the spend? Doing training at all if you have number 1 or number 2 happening. We have unaligned job expectations. A client is hiring us to teach their people to do X, Y, and Z, but the job descriptions and the compensation is still aligned to A, B, and C. Train after those things are changed, okay? Oftentimes we're fighting a culture in doing that. You may say that you want the managers to be more systematic and process oriented so that you can scale. But if your managers are a slave to 800 Slack messages a day because everything is urgent, we're not going to be able to change that. The culture is fighting it. Does that make sense? R&R stands for reward and recognition. If you are switching account managers to penetrate more into accounts instead of taking orders from the top 20%, let's look at how they're comped and how they're rewarded, right? Is it just, if it's just revenue and not growth, it's not going to be a lasting behavior change. If your managers aren't bought in or they can or won't take the time for the training, not worth the investment. Okay. The really smart spends are when the whole organization is aligned with how important this is. So if you're listening to this and you're mid-level management, you got to go get the top, at the very least, to kick off the training, say it's important, and talk about it in a few employee team meetings. I think that it's a waste of time when you're getting the talking head video e-learning. Recorded webinars with slides and a talking head. It's information, but it's the what. It's not the training. A lot of the great big old libraries out there that are available, it is so good to check the box to say we have this available to folks, but it's not going to shift behavior, unfortunately, right? It's not bad, but you can do better. SKOs. Ooh, we're getting controversial. I love speaking at SKOs. It's a lot of fun, but it's frustrating when we're trying to do an SKO that's actually changing behavior, right? SKO speakers are for inspiration. It's for launching new ideas. It's for getting us thinking in a slightly different way. But let's be honest, it's not dedicated time to dig in and learn and apply a new skill unless you're going to give it that time for the interaction. You got a sage on stage, or let's be honest, on a Zoom webinar right now. This is going to be fun and interesting, but no, it's for inspiration. It's not for behavior change. Some of the top needs that we're seeing out there. I put this on the agenda as well, managers and reps. I'm going to show you some of the top requests that we get and that we hear about out there. At the manager level, almost everything about great sales manager training is about shifting from the role of a rep to a manager. Let's be honest, 90% of us are promoting reps into these roles, but we don't have job specific how to be a sales manager training. I know that drove me crazy when I shifted from rep to manager. These are some of our most popular courses. If you have questions on any one of the particulars, ask me. But basically, we're helping them understand what behaviors do I have to leave behind? What does great look like as a sales manager? The cadence is the sales process for managers. And those are my touch points with my reps because I'm in the rep business now, right? How often am I doing one-on-ones, sales huddles? How often am I doing team meetings and pipeline meetings? When do I do a sales strategy meeting? What does good look like in all of these things? How often should I be coaching each different type of rep? Time management for sales managers is critical. Then covering how to do all of these different meetings well is also critical. You'll see my bottom two is call coaching and more call coaching because it is the number one hardest behavior to shift in sales managers. Our course used to be 2 or 3 hours for a sales manager. Now I have 3 levels of 4 hours apiece when we're trying to shift that behavior. It's tough. Great reps are horrible coaches. In fact, CSO ranked, or pardon me, Sales Executive Council ranked sales manager skills, and the number one worst skill at the top was call coaching. And I can tell you from personal experience and me, I'm a horrible call coach. So we're writing this training to shift the behavior to make us great. And it does take a little bit of time and effort. Rep courses. So much of what we're getting requested right now is about helping people pivot. Business acumen is sorely lacking. Industry acumen and customer acumen is sorely lacking. We have to be able to find reps that can have decent business conversations with people so that we're engaging them, so that we're building trust back with our customer base. And it's hard to do. We've got to teach it to them. They're not coming out of school with it anymore. Listening and questioning. I will tell you, I fought building these courses for 12 years. And since COVID, I finally built these courses for Factor 8 because this rote empathy is so frustrating. Hey, trust everything's okay with you. Moving on. Now I'm going to sell you something. It's not how we make authentic connections with people. And there's a demand for humanization coming back into the sales role. Now is the time to get your teams great at this. Customer value is understanding what people actually care about so that you can build solutions based on that value, right? The next one down, proposing solutions with value. All kinds about running virtual meetings now. People need help with this. Our folks who used to be in the field who are moving to virtual selling. These folks need help. It's been very interesting few months for us at Factor 8 because we're getting asked to work with so many really tenured field sellers, the folks who are at the top of your pay grade and experience. But guess what? They're not used to having to leave a decent voicemail. They're not used to having to engage somebody on the phone. They're not used to the fact that they get 3.5 minutes, not 90 minutes to make their pitch, that they have to do it virtually, that they have to bridge from one call to the next call, or they're starting over trying to get a hold of people. All those virtual sales skills that you're teaching your inside team, the field needs now. So that's why we see an uptick there. Next, I'm going to talk about partnering with your organization. So sales with training and training with sales. All right. If you're a sales leader and you need to partner with your training org, here are some tips. Okay. I have to tell you that we see sandboxes. I lived the sandboxes, right? I was a sales leader. I was a training leader. We speak different languages. These are great places to start the conversation. I want to tell you, as enablement leaders, we want to say yes. We love when internal clients engage us. Hey, do you have a training plan for my team next year? Yes, we've got this. The problem is we're also charged with doing development for every single employee in the company. So if you want something laser specific for your group, you need to get specific in your ask with them. Okay, so you got to get real about what they have time to do, what they have the resources and expertise to do, what you're going to have to build yourself or hire out. My enablement leaders, forgive me for a second, but don't let somebody in HR teach your people how to sell. They won't be credible. It's not going to be helpful. All right, some questions you can ask when partnering with your training organization. What is the planned training for my organization next year? Is there a development budget? Does this need to be my budget or your budget? Are there dedicated resources for my team, or can we build something custom for my team? This is making sure that you're getting the actual skills that are particular to sales, which are above and beyond what we need for all employees. Do you have capacity to go beyond what you're doing today? For instance, new hire training. Do we have career paths planned or in place? This is critical for you to map to. I'll talk about that in a minute, to keep your people engaged and retained. What systems or tools are already in place? If you're working with somebody externally to get this and your learning team has a learning management system already and you're not talking to them about it, you're going to have a crash before you get to implementation. What role would you like to play in vendor selection? Bring your training team along if they want to be along. They can help you, right? Just ask. If they don't want to be involved, they'll let you know they don't want to be involved or they don't have the capacity for it. So I hope you're already having these conversations, but if not, it's a good place to start. Let's put the shoe on the other foot. My enablement and training folks. Sales leaders speak a very different language and they move extremely quickly. They also love to diagnose. How many sales training leaders, enablement leaders have been approached by a sales leader saying, we need help on negotiation training? Okay, that is them diagnosing. Now, any training person with their salt is going to back that up in a needs analysis and find out the truth is you need help asking better questions and building value during the sales process, not just how to negotiate at the end. So talk to your training org about root causes, talk about what you're seeing, and let them be experts and help you diagnose. So partnering for planning next year. We want to talk to them about what their planned headcount is. A sales leader may not remember to tell you they're doubling in size. Talk to your sales org about their budgets. Does it need to come from you? Does it need to come from them? Can we combine these? Ask them about their most critical need. They're going to have a million needs. You can't handle all of them. So let's start in priority order. Let's talk about how they're onboarding reps and managers. This is usually the number one pain point because it is so time intensive. Then we get into what are you doing for them ongoing? Do we want the training in-house or do we want it outsourced? Ask them. Talk about what makes sense to build, what makes sense to buy, what makes sense to be live, what makes sense to be e-learning. What's the optimal amount of development per rep, right? The studies tell us it's 45.5 hours, about 4 hours a month. Are the sales leaders down with that? Do they want to have a learning organization that's double that, or are they afraid to take people off the phones for half of that? And a great place to start always is, what does good look like for you? Enablement leaders, we are often training our sales leaders what good training looks like. So that's a great place to start the discussion. Okay, how do we align our sales goals and our enablement plans throughout the year? First, this tip is for my sales leaders. We need to talk to the training department 3 to 6 months before the change. Nothing drove me crazier than I would be brought in the week before 30 new hires were going to start the next week, especially if they don't do this ongoing and we have curriculum to build. It takes 3 to 6 months to build a decent training program. I know it's crazy. There are stats out there to tell you that it is somewhere between 10 to 30 to 1 as a ratio. 1 hour of in-person training can take 10 hours to build. 1 hour of great e-learning or online learning can take 30 hours to build. So when you're asking them to stand up a program, understand it's not going to be overnight. The next thing that we want to do to align our goals is offload your managers as soon as possible. You guys, they are buried in bringing on their new hires and owning all the training for their people. The vast majority of managers I talk to fully own training for their people. Unfortunately, they also fully own coaching their people. They also fully own crisis management, customer management, escalation, sales process, reporting, and driving the number. If we want training to happen, your managers can't own it. Timing. If you're bringing in training or you're building the training initially, whatever it is, if there's a big event going on, the right time to do it. If you've got newbies, we like to come in after they've been on the floor about 2 months. New hire training's great, but if you're spending big money on an uplift, give them a couple months of experience under their belt so they know they need it, so that they know when and where to apply it, so they can bring some experience into the classroom. You're going to get a bigger lift. If it's not newbies, then once again, you want to put the training right after the expectations have been announced, but possibly right before the comp change happens. So if you have a strategy shift, like we gave an example of earlier, and now we're about account growth or a new market or penetration or whatever the new sales goal is, announce it and outline the expectations, provide the training, change the comp. Wherever possible, we want to tie training to career paths. I'll show you an example in a minute. Career paths are critical. If you already don't have a BDR level 1, 2, 3, an AE level 1, 2, 3, know that you're going to wind up building that to keep your people with you. It's one of the only ways you keep them in your organization and not being poached by the rest of the organization as they get to higher levels. Okay. So if you can tie it to a career path and make that career path a combination of time and seat, I'll say more about that in a second. Learning, that's your career path, and your training path that goes with it. And results. We have to have all three to get the promotion. Now you're putting reps in charge of their own promotions. That's going to help you with the frustration of the millennial who's been on the job 2 weeks and wants a promotion. Okay. Have it outlined, folks. It also is going to retain more of your diverse classes who feel like, oh, this is a good old boys club, or everybody in management's a white male, or I'm never going to make it. Because when you have clearly outlined criteria, you'll be shocked at the people who are in there working towards their development and earning those promotions. And the last point is about that as well. Encourage the bench building, train groups ahead of time. If you're looking at building or bringing in management training for your team, think ahead. Can we also let another 20% of folks in who are high potential and preparing for the job? I learned through my work in Girls Club, this is critical for women. We don't apply for the job until we know we can do the job 100%, which means when we can provide training for the job ahead of time, not only are you going to get a better high performing person in that job, you'll get more applicants, you'll have a bench built, everybody wins. All right, let's take a look at what career paths can be. I'm just showing you some examples straight from our sales bar. It's our e-learning platform. This one's account manager. We've got BDR, we've got AE, we've got ISR, we've got account manager, level 1, level 2, level 3, right there outlined. Each one has 6 courses. You can go through them as quickly as you want. The right thing is to have a plan. And again, like I said, you got the learning, but you also have the results. Could be activity, KPIs, right? Final numbers, profit, revenue, etc. And time and seat. The reason, by the way, this is just a look into what it can look like in those courses. I'll get to that in a second. The reason you want time in the seat, if you have a BDR org, right, and everybody wants a promotion to AE, Every time they need a new AE, they're just grabbing them. They're just grabbing them, right? But if you can put a limit there that says, hey, they have to be at BDR level 3 and they need a minimum of 6 months in seat, then they can plan their people pipeline as well, but you're getting the return on your investment. You want to hold people captive, but you don't want to be just a training organization and pushing all your talent out the door, because you're nothing but a revolving door and a hiring mechanism. This slide says, get tactical. Sales leaders, it's not all up to your enablement leaders to build it, right? Some of the favorite assets we have in our courses are from the sales floor. So I just expanded one of the classes, right? It starts with a video. That's the what, that's not the training. Interactive e-learning. Yes, a quiz, but then look, the script, the post-it, and the call library, those are all examples of how it looks, how it sounds, how to use it, how to customize it. You can pull those things from your organization. So you have content that can help as well. When you partner with Enablement and get it in the tools, now it's available to everybody, and you're offloading your managers. This is the thing I'm probably proudest of what we built at Factor 8 over the last few years. If you want your managers involved, like I've been telling you this whole time you got to do, you got to make it easy for them. Make it fast, make it easy. We build toolkits. Every rep skill has a manager toolkit, a coaching guide of literal questions to ask to support the skill, an activity you can do with them, a contest you can run, even a call scoring form to really support that skill. Teach them how to use it, right? We're teaching them how to fish, and it's working. Next thing I want to talk about is, how do you keep this ongoing? I built this slide when I was in charge of enablement at SAP 15 years ago, and I can't tell you how often I still use it. This is me training our sales leaders that training has to be continuous, right? When you're new on the job, you're full-time training. That's new hire training, baby, right? But it never goes all the way down to zero. So as their performance goes up, the training time goes down, but it never goes down to zero. We want to build our curriculum in the 101, 201, and 301 levels, just like we talked about, BDR level 1, 2, and 3. If you're building this right now and trying to figure out what do I put where, think about time and seat. When I'm a new salesperson, my first month on the job, let's be honest, I'm figuring out how to update things in the CRM, and I'm leaving a ton of voicemails. I'm not negotiating price. I'm not having in-depth product discussions. Save those for 201, right? If you think about each one of those categories of skills, for instance, systems, 101, I'm updating stuff. I'm finding stuff. I'm taking notes. I'm dispositioning. I'm not processing returns until 301. Save it, right? I'm not there yet. So time and job helps us determine 101 through 301 skills. A few other tips on how we can incorporate training all year long. Number 1, stop buying event-based training. Build and buy an annual plan. Pre-schedule this, you guys. Wouldn't it be great to know that every Friday afternoon there's a training, that the first day of every month there's a session led by X, Y, and Z? You're building it into the schedule so people can plan around it, and you're showing people that it's important. Creating those learning paths, aligning them to the career paths. We just talked about that. Now certify achievement and demonstration at every level. Boom, your buy-in just doubled. Timing. When folks are new hires, they're sponges. They're going to go through 10 classes. When they're on the floor, our best practice averages at 1 skill a month. So yes, you can go faster. Yes, you can go slower. But if you want people to really grab a skill, internalize it, figure it out, apply it, build a habit, get it supported, and shift behavior long-term, focus on about 1 skill a month. Roll up the updates, right? So managers, you're rolling up to the directors. Here are the top skills. Here's call coaching results. Here are the top needs, whatever the case may be. Directors, you're rolling up to the leaders. And we're partnering with the enablement organization at that level, right? Leaders are saying, here's the results we're seeing from what we did last month. By the way, the top 3 issues we're having on the floor with our new hires based on call coaching are boom, boom, boom. Let's address that in the new hire training. Oh, it sounds so easy when you look at it from that level, doesn't it? All right, the best thing you can also do is automate onboarding to free up your ongoing training and coaching resources, especially now that we're trying to do it remotely. Managers are spending all of their days in the talking head on Zoom video, trying to vomit and teach everything they know to these reps. And it's just a massive waste of time. It's the same amount of effort when you're doing it for one person as when you're doing it for 15 people. So tip number one, hire in classes. Hire in classes. I know it means 2 weeks of not having somebody on the floor, but if you can manage your people pipeline as well as you manage your sales pipeline, you are way ahead of the game. You know who's on final write-up. You know who's past their baked in sell by date. You know what the growth goals are. Hire ahead of time so that you can bring them in classes and free up your managers. More tips for automating onboarding or low bandwidth leader tips. Let's see if this is going to move for me. Here we go. I'm hanging just a second, so hopefully it's going to pop in for you in a second. All right, when you are onboarding folks and you don't have an enablement department and you don't have something that's already automated, here are some things that you can do. Number one, make sure that your reps have a daily schedule, goals, and assignments, okay? Their training shouldn't be 100% dependent on your availability. You are teaching about 25%, and that's it. And then, by the way, you're going to record that sucker and not have to do it again. If your rep has a daily assignment, such as go and research A, B, and C, shadow and fill out the report on, research 25 case studies and bring to me the top 3 trends on, switch what you're saying into an assignment where they can be self-guided, they're going to be able to take charge of their own days. They'll feel more in control, and it pulls the time away from you. Here are some examples. Scavenger hunts, translation. I love that. Go read 25 case studies and translate it for me and bring back to me the top 5 values that we provide to customers. Go read these 3 product data sheets and translate it for me into our top 3 features and customer benefits. Those are assignments that are so much more impactful to the learner than listening to you talk about it. And hello, gift of time. Recordings, customer interviews, and case studies. Oh my, great resources for reps to go research, translate, or scavenger hunt. Guest speakers rule, right? You don't have to talk about the products. Let's get a product person in there and let's record it for next time. Shadowing is great, but it's tough because you don't know what's being taught and it's really easy to tune out. But if you were to give a rep a call coaching or call scoring form while they were shadowing and then have them come back, you're going to spend half a day shadowing. Here are the people you can contact. Make your own damn appointments so you can build those relationships and I don't have to do it, right? Now you're going to come back and you're going to write a report for me on the top 3 skills that you saw, the top 3 needs from the customer that you heard, and 3 gaps that you think everybody could get better at, right? The analysis is where the learning is happening. Record for future use. We hit that one already. And free bandwidth, baby. You know, you got a list of things you wish you had done. Turning the last few testimonials into case studies, turning them into stories, reaching out to customers and getting feedback, collecting new testimonials, writing basic emails for outreach. They may not be perfect at it, right? But if they can draft these things, they're learning and you're getting it done for next time. They can be building the new hire training for the next class. Outsource everything you can. Really hard to do for product information, for process information, easiest to do with systems and sales. Go buy the training that the vendor provides for those things. My number 1 tip is the pause game. This is the number 1 way to shorten ramp. You're going to use it with call recordings you already have. Get a group of people together. It's training, not coaching, so that's okay. Anybody who's been hired in the last 2 months, you're going to play a call and about every 5 seconds you pause. What is the customer thinking? What should the rep do next? Those 2 questions over and over and over again. Here's why it's magic, okay? Because ramp time isn't about reps not knowing what to do. It's about them not knowing when to do it, right? Adults learn in file folders, and our job is to help synthesize all of them together so I can use them at once. Unfortunately, we don't use just product training on a call. We don't use just sales training on a call. We have to use them together. And a customer never gives us an ABC choice scenario, right? Don't you wish they would? So if we can get reps identifying what to do next, it slows the game down for them. If we can help them get into the mind of the customer, we're hitting the customer acumen and helping them know how to navigate those calls and when to use the skills. You'll be shocked how it shortens ramp time. Next, I'm going to talk about some low-cost, no-cost development, and we're sliding into home. You got nothing? Here are some free ways to do development for your team. Everybody's got webinars. You're watching one right now, right? So instead of all of us signing up or just randomly emailing these to people, delegate this to people on your team. Reps want to move up and they want the responsibility. Rep A, go find us some great free training on blank, blank, or blank, right? Put these out there. Let them go to it live. Let them decide which ones are worth it. Now you're going to do a recording and you're going to turn it into a team training. How? Put the 1, 2, 3 punch around it. The team's going to watch the recording. Then we're going to do training on it. I learned ABC skill. Let's practice it. Let's role play it. Let's make it our own. How can we put that into our sales process, our script, brainstorm it, try it. Now focus on it for the next couple of weeks in the coaching. You just took a free resource and turned it into really impactful training. Individual development plans are quick and easy. You don't have any budget. Listen, I got a tiny company, right? So you can meet with each individual person and talk about what their goals are. Let them go find, what kind of training do you think is available on that? See what you can go and find. Now you can apply that budget towards getting them the external training that they're looking for. Sometimes they just need a mentor. Sometimes it's about book learning. Let it be custom for them. Put them in charge of finding it. Peer-led training assignments are fantastic. I think it's something you want to do all the time, whether you've got an enablement department and a budget or a vendor or not. Every other Friday, there is a peer-led training session. Pick the skills based on your gaps. Use your call coaching forms for that. Use feedback from training from that. Use requests from the team for that. Assign it to folks. My recommendation manager is you assign it to them. Give them a basic template. Some tips like you only get to talk 50% of the time. You have to show how and where to apply it. We have to have time to practice. You need to give people time to talk about it. It can't be longer than 40 minutes. It's great tips that you can use. There's your assignment, then have them present it back to you so you don't have a you-know-what show on your hands when you get there. Reps, product experts, sales leaders, we are inherently poor trainers. Why? Because we're freaking brilliant. We're experts and we just stand up and talk. And it sounds a lot like a webinar format like this. And that's not training. That's the what, not the how and the where. Book club's a no-brainer. Make sure that you're matching the skills. Okay. Most sales books are there to sell books, not change behaviors, and they don't all fit. If you've got a team of 20, 22-year-olds, don't pick the challenger sale. A 22-year-old calling a VP challenging them, that ain't going to go well. So be cautious about the type of training. Miller Hyman and all those books are phenomenal, but they're about complex sales. Those are for more of your field teams. Value-based, question-based, some of those oldies but goodies, good foundational stuff for beginning reps. Research assignments, we've covered that, but they do work. Put them in teams. Go and research this competitor. Come back with these 5 bits of information. Won't that be powerful for the rest of your team? And internal leader presentations. Folks, if you want to keep about your company, help them understand all the different ways that they can move up, all their different internal clients and support departments. So this can be product, it can be marketing, it can be operations, it can be finance. Help them learn about the rest of the organization. It's absolutely valid development. You're getting them engaged with your company. You're getting bought into you and the company and their long-term future. Nice. Okay. If you are going to outsource, or if you are in enablement and you are scrambling to get more of your stuff online and you need some help to supplement that pivot to virtual learning, here are some of the tips. I've spent the last 3 years putting all of our face-to-face instructor-led training online in the sales bar. And here's what I've learned, right? You want various formats. You don't just want talking head video, like I've said. Let them hear it, let them do it, let them see it. There's lots of different learners out there. Everything needs to be micro, 20 minutes or less. make it as interactive as possible. Training geek friends, you're going to get this. It needs to hit the top half of the Bloom's taxonomy. Somebody being able to recognize it does not mean they're going to be able to say it, apply it, decide on it during a sales call. Make sure it's ongoing and not a single event. You want this to be reality based. So much of the training is theoretical and generic, especially in those big libraries. So get it as close as you can to real life. Tough to do when you're outsourcing. On demand, right? We want them to be able to use it now, reference it later. Allowing the customization. Very often this comes in a blended approach, right? Oh, my e-learning is the same. We customize it with the layer of live training on top of it. You got to make sure it involves the managers. And if you're training salespeople, you better believe it's got to be fun. I know, short and quick list. Hang on to it if you're evaluating for some help. Now I'm going to pitch you. Yeah, it's not a real pitch. In case you haven't heard of it, my second company is called Girls Club, and our applications are open right now. It's a management bench building program. It is for women. We involve men as mentors and love having them, but we're teaching how to take a rep and very rapidly turn them into a high performing sales manager. What it does for you is builds you a management bench, definitely more quickly and less expensively than hiring from the outside. It also helps check some D&I boxes. When you have programs like this, you will be bringing more women into your organization, because that is the number one question I get from sales leaders out there. So I wanted to make you all aware of the program and that applications are open now, closing November 15th. We have a Friends of Factor 8 scholarship available so search for that as well. Here's my information. If you have follow-up questions, if we're not already LinkedIn friends, let's connect there. That is our phone number. That's my direct email address. I'm also going to stay on for a few minutes and quit this presentation in one-wayness. If you've got a question, chat it in or raise your hand. I'm going to pull you off mute, or you can email me afterwards if you've got any specific questions or ways that I can serve. Thank you. I hope this was helpful. It's like everything I've learned about enablement in 55 minutes. So sorry for the massive vomit, you guys. Hopefully you grabbed the things that you needed and you can make a case so that you can bring on and retain and ramp more employees faster next year. Thanks for joining.